Like I said, when we create a new project, we're using Windows Forms apps. We're going to use that .NET framework for ours. Go to next. I'm going to call this hang on one sec. So I'm just going to call this control structure examples. I'm using .NET Framework 4.7.2. There's 4.8 down there. We're using 4.7.2. I'm just going to keep calling it control structure examples for my solution name, and I'm going to put mine on my desktop. I got a folder up here already. Control structure examples. I'm just going to put it in there for now. Create that. So of course I got my form. I want a text box on here, so I'm going to do a text box. I know I want a button. Then I put another text box for my results down below. A label down there also. And a label next to my text box so you know what to enter here. That's a quick sloppy layout. Let's get it cleaned up. Let's get our properties set on it. So I'm going to stretch my text box a little bit. Stretch my button to get it to the same size. And then I'll put my result label down here. So I'll start with my text box. Naming convention again, it's TXT, and I will put entered value. Under the appearance, we don't need any text in there, being a text box. Button 1, again with the naming convention, BTN. I'm going to call it do something. And then in my appearance for my text, I'll have it also say do something. My text box for my results. Naming convention TXT. Result. I'm going to name my label here, result. So LBL result. And then my text, I'm going to get rid of my text because I want my result to show up in that text box. And my label 2, I'm going to have it say enter a value. I'll just call it LBL, enter value text. Move this over a little bit so it looks nice. So now I got my form laid out, got my label here to show that you can enter a value in the text box. My text box properties are set, my button has been set. My result text box is set, and down here hidden somewhere I got another label. There it is. So now again to start coding, we just double click on our button. That wires it up for us. our do something click event. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the data from the user when they enter it. So I'm just going to give it a data type of integer. I'm going to just name my button. Like I said, you can name these variables anything you want. Usually you want something to do with what you're coding out. So I'm going to call mine user entered data, since the user is entering some data in there for us. It comes in as a string because it's coming out of that text box, so I'm going to convert it to an int32. I don't want that button do something. I want text entered value dot text there. Double check and make sure I name that what I wanted it to be. Text entered value, that's what I want. Text entered value, and again we have to put that dot text to get that value out of it. If not, our code's going to break. So I'm going to start out with an if statement. So again, we just start with the keyword if, and following the if you use parentheses, and inside these parentheses you put your conditional statement that you want to see as true or false. So I'm going to see if the user entered data is equal to, and again we use two equal signs to check, do comparison checking. If we just do one equal sign, it's going to reassign a value to it, and we don't want to reassign a value. We already assigned the value on the line above up here. We got our data type of integer, our variable name of user entered data, and we assign it the value of whatever they're entering in this text box. But of course, since our user entered data is an integer data type, we're converting it to an integer, so it can work with each other without having problems. So again, if I'm doing a comparison, I want two equal signs. If we use three equal signs, what that's doing is seeing if this user entered data matches up with what's on the right hand side and has the same data type. We're not worried about the data type or anything of that right now. We just want to check our value. So we're going to see if the user entered data is 0. And again, you can see there's a red squiggly behind it. It's looking for some squiggly brackets. Those brackets hold the body of the code block for it. So it's saying if our user entered data equals 0, and that means it's true, we're going to, and I haven't showed anybody this, or you guys haven't seen this yet, somebody might have played with it and kind of figured it out, but I'm going to set my text, what did I call them over here? Text result dot for color equals color red, and I'm going to do label result dot for color. I don't want green, I want this one red also. So what I'm going to do here, that for color and the color dot red, that's just changing my text color to red from the standard black. So I want my text result dot text to say please enter a number greater than 0, and I'm going to do the same thing with my label, so it'll be L result dot text. That way it displays on the screen. I'm just going to copy and paste this line to save a little bit of time. So what I'm saying here is when the user enters something into that text box and we run it, if it equals 0, if they put the number 0 in, it's going to turn red and say please enter a number greater than 0. And then I'm going to say else if, and again the if statement, you put parentheses behind it to enter your conditional check. So I'm going to say user entered data is greater than 0 and what do we use to show an and in our conditional operators? Anybody? The double ampersand sign. So and then we want user entered data. I don't want it less than 10. I want it less than or equal to. Less than or equal to, let's say 50. So if it is less than or greater than 0 and less than 50, we'll just say text result dot text equals. I'm going to use string interpolation here. I like that a lot better. It's a little more clean than trying to concatenate a bunch of different things to it. Your number, and then I'm going to display the user entered data here. But I'm going to say is greater than 0 and less than or equal 50. And I'll do the same thing for my label since I'm using both a label and a text box for this. I'm just going to copy and paste this line again since we're doing the exact same thing, just using a different control method. So now I have if the user enters data that equals 0, it's going to throw a little bit of a warning saying please use a number greater than 0. If they enter a number that's greater than 0 and less than or equal to 50, it's going to say what the number is, and then it's greater than 0 and less than or equal to 50. And finally, we'll do an else. And say text result dot text your number is, let's show the user's number again. Is greater than 50. I'll do the same thing for my label since I'm using both a text box and a label to show my result. So now when I run this, if I enter a 0 in, it should show some red text telling me enter a greater number than a 0. If I put a number in between 0 and 50, it will tell me what my number is and tell me that it's greater than 0 or less than or equal to 50. And anything greater than 50, it will show me my number and just say it's greater than 50. So let's run this real quick. And I got a build error somehow. So I'm missing one of my, looks like Right here, I'm missing a squiggly closing. I thought I had it, but maybe I deleted it accidentally. So now let's run that. Looks like my error's gone. Try to run this again. There's my window, enter a value. So let's enter 0 and see what happens. Click on do something. There you can see it's telling me please enter a number greater than 0. And it's hard to tell on the screen up here. It should be red text. You can probably see it on the Discord stream there. My label's a little bit off down here. So let's run it again. Put my 0 in. Get my error saying please enter a number greater than 0. So we'll do that. We'll put 25 in here. I don't know why I kept my text red. It should have switched it back. There, now it's black again. I guess it stayed red because I didn't clear the box out. Stretch my result box a little bit further there. Try and run it one more time. So we'll do 25. There it says number 25 is greater than 0 or less than or equal to 50. We'll put 75 in here. Your number 75 is greater than 50. I guess what I'd have to do is set my colors back to black on here to get my code to look good. And we'll put them down in here just in case. We go right to there. So now if we run this, it should change my colors back. Everything should look fairly decent. So now let's enter our 0, get the red text. Got our red text saying enter a number greater than 0. We'll put 22 in. There we go. Let's switch back to the black text. Your number 22 is greater than 0 or less than or equal to 50. And we'll do 88. Your number 88 is greater than 50. So what we did here is we just took an if statement. We used a conditional check here. We're checking what the user entered in the text box. We're comparing it. Is it equal to 0? Yes or no? If it's yes, it's going to drop down into our first block of code down here. If it's false, it's going to go to this if-else statement down here, and it'll do another check to see if our user data is greater than 0, and we're checking both values of it, so we know greater than 0 and it's less than or equal to 50. We'll drop down in this block of code and run it. If neither one of these are true, then it gets caught by this else statement down here, and it does that. Prints out 50 because we know it doesn't match up with either of these criteria, and it drops into that else statement. Like I said, we haven't used the 4-color settings or anything like that, so don't worry too much about that. I was just messing with it yesterday because I got bored. So you call your text box, your label, whatever you have your text in, set the 4-color to it, that 4-color, and then give it a value. I colored it red. These I had to color it back to black, if not it'd stay red once it changed, so that's why I put them on there. So that's a quick if-else statement. When we get into this, I show you this rock, paper, scissors. I'll show you a nested if statement in there. The next thing I'll show you real quick is a switch statement. So again, I'm going to go create a new project, add a new project technically, a Windows Form app. Click next. I'll call it switch statement. Keep it where it's at. Go ahead and create it. So I got my form. I'm not really gonna. I guess we can put a text box on here. So we'll put a text box on here. And I'll say enter a number, my label. Somewhere I got some labels up. Oh, here they are. I didn't see them. So this label here, and then we want a button, and then we want another label to display our result. So I'm going to call my text box first. Name convention starts with TXT. I'll put enter day. Button 1 for the name. Of course, the naming convention is BTN. And I will say show day. For the text on it, I'll have it say the same thing, show day. Label 1. Question text. I'll say enter a number 1 through 7. Button. Label 2. I'll call this LBL show day. And I don't want any text there because that's where my display is going to show. So now we'll start coding this for our switch statement. And we're going to get the value that the user enters in, called an integer, and we'll put again user entered data. We're going to assign it the value of that text box, so of course we're going to have to convert it. But I don't want the button text, I want my text. So there we're declaring a variable, data type is integer, the name of it is user entered data, and we're assigning it to the value of whatever's being put in this text box. Because it comes in as a text, we got to convert it to an int 32 to match up with our data type over here. This text box, I named it txt enter day. You can call them anything you want, but because that object's holding the text in it, we got to get that text out, and we do that by putting the dot text behind it to pull the value out of it. So now that we got that set up, we're going to set up our switch. So we use the keyword switch, and then we got to see what we're entering to switch, and we're going to enter that user entered data as our case to switch them. And then we just go case 1 since we're starting with 1. And we want our label dot show day, or label show day down here, dot text to equal, and it's just going to be straight text, and we'll just call it Monday. Now let's start with Sunday, since some weeks start with Sunday. And then of course we have to do a break to get out of it. And then we're going to do case 2, our label show day again, dot text equals Monday. We got to break out of it again. Of course, case 3, label show day, text equals Tuesday. So we'll go through the days of the week like this. Always got to break it to get it out of that switch statement. And you can see as we're doing these, IntelliSense is telling us this case 5, something's wrong with it. It's just not set up right. So if we kind of follow the way of doing it, label show day dot text equals Thursday. And it's still not right because we're missing our break. Once we get that in there, then it makes it happy. So case 6. And I've seen some long ones of these to where it's like A through Z and every letter has some kind of switch that they're using. Sometimes I've seen it A through double Z, depending on what all they're trying to do. Friday, let's break it. And then finally, we are to Saturday. So that's a basic switch statement there. We're just saying get the value from the text box, store it in this variable named user data. We're going to use this user data to do our switch, so it's going to check through here and see what's going on. So if we run this now, enter day 2. And it shows us it's a Monday. You can see case 2, we entered the 2 there. That's the value we passed through. It looks for case 2 and shows us Monday. We can do 6 and it should show us Friday. Of course it does. 1, Sunday. So that's how a basic switch statement works. It just looks for a case, whatever you set your case up to. We could have gave it letters, we could have gave it words, we could have called it like Monday here, Tuesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. They would have typed in the date the name of the day, and then it would have showed it up down at the bottom in the label or result. You occasionally use switch statements out in the real world. I know we did a few times, like I said, in a couple of jobs I worked at, entering stuff in and then getting the value back for it. So just a basic switch statement there. I know we do use some of them coming up in these labs and that. So 2 quick demos there of an if-else statement and a switch statement.